We have one of the most incredible scenes in the New Testament as our lesson today. Jesus had gone to Bethany. Bethany, just a half a day's walk from Jerusalem. It's on the next little hill over. You can see Jerusalem from Bethany. And he'd gone to visit with his friends there, Mary and Martha and their brother Lazarus. You remember he had brought Lazarus out from the tombs, had come out, Lazarus, after they'd already buried him. And so word had spread all over the town and even into Jerusalem that this young rabbi from up in the Galilee area had miraculous powers and he was able to do miraculous things. And even this man Lazarus had been raised from the dead. So they threw a big party for Jesus when he came to Bethany. Everybody showed up. And then it was as tradition in a Jewish household, at the end of the dinner, it was time for the rabbi to speak and teach. Now, in Jesus' day, it was different from the way that it is today. And today, when a preacher wants to say something important, he stands up and everybody else sits down. Well, in Jesus' day, when the rabbi wanted to say something important, he sat down and everybody else laid down. They laid on the ground or pillars. They relaxed around him, and the rabbi was sitting there and the teacher. It would have been all men, because that was the cultural way that things were done in that day. So here is this wonderful moment. They've had this fabulous meal. The women have been shooed out. The rabbi is getting ready to speak. And what happens? An interloper, this woman, Mary Magdalene, Mary of Magdala. Magdal was a little village near where Jesus preached in Capernaum. You can see it from Capernaum. So she was one of his early followers. We believe that she may have been a woman of substance and had money, because it says in one of the Gospels that she owned vineyards and wine presses. She certainly had enough money to buy this container of this precious, precious perfume. She comes and into the middle of this group of men who are ready to study and listen to the rabbi. She breaks open the container of this perfume. Any of you ladies ever spilled some of your perfume? You know how it wafts all over the house, just the fragrance goes everywhere? Well, this filled up the house with this super sweet smell. And with her hand, she takes this perfume and washes Jesus' feet. The form of a slave. Slave washes the master's feet. And then she undoes her hair and wipes his feet with her hair. That's over the top. That's radical, outrageous generosity. Judas Iscariot, the treasurer, as treasurers always do, counts the money. And he says, you could have sold that much nard for 300 denarii. Denarii is a day's wage. In other words, that perfume that she broke on his feet, it would take you a year to earn enough money to buy that. Why, you extravagant, over-the-top woman, you've just thrown away a year's worth of wages, and here you are in this group with this very kind of, there's all these kind of, well, let's face it, emotional, sexual kind of overtones. She's wiping his feet with her hair while this fragrance is floating through the house. And the traditional Jews are offended. Judas Iscariot says you could have saved that money and given it to the poor. Jesus says to him essentially, when did you start caring for the poor so much? I am seeing you breaking your back for the poor. Why all of a sudden this issue? He says she has done the right thing, because this is the kind of thing you do to anoint a body for burial. The one who was radical, extravagant, over the top, living in the right now of the moment. She's the one who sees it as it really is. She's the one that sees that the Son of God is on the way to the cross. Oh my, oh my. Jesus says, leave her alone. People have got to work out their spirituality in their own way. This is what she needs to do. Leave her alone. And then there's murmuring in the background. The Jews said, man, this just confirms everything we thought. He raised Lazarus from the dead. People are flocking to him. This kind of over-the-top expression. Not only we ought to kill him, we ought to kill Lazarus too. Extravagant, embarrassing generosity. Rule-breaking, barrier-breaking generosity. Right at the moment that Jesus begins to head toward the cross. Oh my. How are we extravagant in our giving? Well, we try to give a fair portion of our income, don't we? Some of us even tithe. Some of us even tithe our gross rather than our net. Story about the two fellows who were shipwrecked on a desert island, and one of them is busy all the time. He's piling up rocks, spelling SOS, and building a fire, and finding cloth to make a flag and so forth. And the other guy's just sitting under a palm tree drinking some coconut milk. He says, don't you care? Don't you want to work? Aren't you exercised? Don't you want to be discovered? The fellow under the palm tree says, I tithe the total income of my company to my church. My pastor will find me. What does it mean to be extravagant givers? What does it mean to move beyond just the ordinary and give something that is just over the top? Well, sometimes we give of our heart and our life, don't we?